Welcome back to my channel. So you saw the video title, let's cut straight to the chase. In this video, I want to talk about some of the options that are available for you to become a social worker here in Australia. Yes, I already spoke a little bit on something related to this in my previous video, which actually generated a lot of interest. So I received a lot of comments and questions, both privately and here on YouTube, people asking me things related to social work education and social work practice. Now, I am happy to announce that this is actually the first of a series of videos that I have been working really hard on, which will address a lot of topics under these two broad categories of education and social work practice. So this is my cue to tell you not to go anywhere. You're going to be sticking to this channel for a while. I really hope at the end of the day, more seriously, that this brings you some value, that you're able to find exactly what information you're looking for. I want to talk about the three options which might be suitable for people who fit into one of a few conditions that I'm going to mention. Number one, if you're someone who is just starting out in their professional life, maybe you're straight out of high school and you've been considering your career options, and maybe social work happens to be on that list and you're strongly considering a career in social work, then keep watching. I am sure you're going to get some value from this video. If on the other hand, you're someone who has a different professional background, you're already practicing in something completely unrelated to social work, but you've been thinking really strongly about transitioning into social work practice, keep watching as well. And the third set of people I would talk about would be people who are overseas trained in social work and would want to migrate to Australia and continue practicing as social workers. Again, this video is for you. So this video is sort of like setting the tone for what will follow in subsequent videos. Okay, so I'm not going to go into so much detail, but I am sure that, you know, by way of setting context, this would be really useful. Okay, so let's begin with the Bachelor of Social Work. The Bachelor of Social Work, straight off the bat, I want you to keep this in mind. It is the required entry-level qualification for you to practice as a social worker. And why I am stressing this point is because if you will potentially become an international student, and maybe you're at that stage where you are researching your options regarding what social work course to study, you might come across a few diploma options online. And if you were wondering if studying towards a diploma will grant you entry into social work practice, the answer is no, not in Australia. The minimum requirement in terms of your qualification is a bachelor degree to be recognized as a social worker in Australia. Okay, so keep that in mind. Diplomas are great for professional education, for continuous education. If you recognize any gaps in your experience that you would want to develop your skills or your knowledge about, then diplomas are great. But that's what it is, okay? So please do not enroll in a diploma program hoping that it would qualify you to practice as a social worker here in Australia, because it will not. The bachelor degree programs are also good for anyone who is considering transitioning from another career or another professional background that is unrelated to social work. Yeah, transitioning into social work. So if that is you, the bachelor degree option might be an option for you. And I say might here because the next option I'm going to talk about, which is the Master of Social Work qualifying, is another strong option. Now, the decision regarding which one you end up taking would depend a lot on your personal situation and what your goals are. So what exactly you want to get out of that education experience. Having said that, let me talk about the Master of Social Work qualifying for a bit. The Master of Social Work qualifying should not be mistaken with the Master of Social Work. Master of Social Work is basically for people who already have a bachelor degree in social work, have probably already practiced a little bit in the field and are just looking to upgrade their qualifications or go one step up in their qualifications. Then the Master of Social Work is usually the go-to for them. But if you're someone transitioning again from a completely unrelated field into the social work practice, then the Master of Social Work qualifying is another strong option to consider. Comparing it to the Bachelor of Social Work, one thing you should keep in mind in terms of enrolling into the Master of Social Work qualifying is that you must already have a bachelor degree. Now, it doesn't matter whether that bachelor degree is related to social work or not. You must have a bachelor degree to be accepted into the program, and you probably might also be required to have some professional experience. And again, it doesn't have to be related to social work, but if your experience and your qualification is kind of complementary to the social work practice, I think that it would stand you a better chance, okay? But that's not to say that if you're coming from a totally unrelated field, that it's impossible to get into the Master of Social Work qualifying program. I have a bachelor degree in communications, okay, and then I transitioned into social work. But while I was doing my program, that's my Master of Social Work qualifying program, I met people from different professional backgrounds. I met people from commerce, I met people from, the pure sciences, not even social science. So I met people from different professional backgrounds and different qualification backgrounds, and they were all in the program. So I guess it would depend on how strongly you sell yourself in terms of demonstrating your passion for social work practice and also fulfilling the inherent requirements to be enrolled in that program. So maybe you want to consider your options really carefully between the Bachelor of Social Work and the Master of Social Work qualifying. If you're coming from a different career background and you want to transition into social work practice. In terms of the structure of social work education, and I'm just going to gloss over this because like I said, I don't want this video to be too long. I'm going to delve into these things in more detail in subsequent videos. So in terms of the structure, I just want you to keep in mind what sorts of things to expect when it comes to fulfilling academic requirements and all of that. So get ready to do a lot of writing because most of the assessments are essay based. You're going to be doing a lot of writing, long essays. You can also expect to do a lot of presentations because, one of the inherent requirements for social work practice and education is good communication skills, and you're going to be demonstrating that throughout the time of your course by participating in all these sorts of things, projects, presentations, group work. You can expect a lot of group work as well. And then there is a placement component structured into the course as well. So the placement here in Australia has to total at least 980 hours, but commonly we know that the placements last for 1,000 hours. So that works out to be about 6 months of unpaid work, okay? So it's a placement, it's part of your education, you're not getting paid for it, but you don't get to do the whole 6 months at a stretch. The 1,000 hours are usually broken into 2 blocks, so 500 block placements, and you do them at different times within your study period. In the Master of Social Work qualifying program, you do 500 hours in your first year and 500 hours in your second year or your final year. And I guess it's a similar structure in the BSW program as well. So this is just me giving you a heads up regarding what to expect in terms of the structure of the course. Now let's move on to the third option. So again, I would remind you here that if you've got any questions or comments, things that you would want me to address, especially in relation to the education side of becoming a social worker here in Australia, please let me know. So I am already working on a lot of things behind the scenes. I'm going to be talking about things like setting up yourself effectively before you start studying, how to choose the right electives, how to access supports for yourself while you're studying, whether it be academic support or well-being support. I'm going to be talking about all of that, but as well, I might skip some things. So if there's anything that you really would want me to talk about relating to studying towards becoming a social worker and the structure of that study experience, then please leave me a comment in the comment section or send me a private email. I always have my private email address linked in the description box and it's going to appear somewhere on the screen as well. So let's move on to the third option, which is skilled migration. The skilled migration option is basically for people who are overseas trained, so overseas trained social workers who are interested in migrating to Australia and continuing their practice in social work here. So the skills assessment basically just requires for you to submit a few documents to demonstrate your skills and your qualifications and your experience, and all of those documents would go to the AASW. So AASW, which stands for Australian Association of Social Workers, is the regulatory body for social work practice and education. So the AASW would assess your documents, which would also include proof of English language proficiency. And I do know that the AASW only accepts IELTS. But like I said, I'm going to go into more details in subsequent videos. And even though the AASW is specifically for social workers, there are other regulatory bodies as well, other professional bodies that you can also kind of explore in terms of getting your migration skills assessment done. It doesn't always have to be AASW, but I will explain all of that in subsequent videos. So when you send in your documents to the AASW, they would assess all of that, and then if you return a positive assessment, that is when you go on to apply for a visa. Now, going through that assessment process would also help you to determine how many points you might get towards your migration points, okay? As you might already know, there are different categories that you need to score points under, and one of them would be around your professional experience and your qualifications. So if you are overseas trained, the AASW is there to determine exactly how many points you can get for your skills and your qualifications, and all of that would go into your total migration points as well, okay? That's kind of it for the three main options that are available to people who want to practice social work here in Australia. I hope you found all of these helpful, and this is the time for you to make sure that you have subscribed and turned on your notifications so that you don't miss any of the juicy content that is coming your way. Thank you very much and stay safe. Bye-bye.